What's up YouTube, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and welcome to the camera comparison SuperSaf style between the Sony Xperia XZ Premium and the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. So in the usual style, we'll be looking at both the front and rear facing cameras and our images as well as video too. Do also look out for the audio icon in the corner of the screen, and that will indicate to you which device the audio is coming from, and I'll be switching between these two to give you guys a better idea of the differences in audio as well. So we're currently in my car and we have plenty of light coming in. We're going to be heading outdoors, doing some outdoor tests, and then we'll also do some low light tests. So let's get straight to it. So we are now outdoors. We're still using the front facing cameras, but we're going to be testing out the stabilization. So I'm just walking right now, and let's go ahead and turn this into a bit of a run. We've now switched over to the rear facing cameras. We're filming at 4K, and just to give you an idea of the differences in quality. Now let's go ahead and take a bit of a walk at 4K. Now we've switched over to 1080p to see the stabilization, so let's go ahead and do a bit of a run. Now we're indoors in room lighting with the Xperia XZ Premium, testing out the autofocus. Seems to be doing okay. Now with the S8 Plus in the same lighting, and this definitely seems faster with the dual pixel autofocus. So that was the video. Now before we move on to the images, in terms of what we're working with here, the Xperia XZ Premium has high resolution for both the front and rear facing cameras, but the S8 Plus has a wider f1.7 aperture for both the front and rear facing cameras. Now all images that you'll see have been taken on automatic. I've not tweaked any settings. The only thing I've switched off is beauty mode on the front facing camera, and that's to really see the quality of the images from both devices. Starting off with some selfies, I think both are doing good here. You can see that the Sony is favoring the shadows a little bit more, and I think the S8 is doing more of a balanced job in terms of the dynamic range. The background isn't as blown out as what we have on the Sony, but the Sony does have a wider angle of view, so you're going to be able to fit more people in your selfies with the Sony. Going in 100%, you can see that we can crop in further on the XZ Premium because we do have a high resolution, but I do think the colors are a little bit on the greeny to yellow side. I think the S8 does have more natural skin colors. There's also some softening happening on the XZ Premium, and remember I did switch off the beauty mode. Now some of you may like that, so that is going to come down to your personal preference. Now moving on to a low light selfie, so this is outdoors under street lighting. The S8 does seem sharper here. The XZ Premium does look a little bit blurry, especially towards my top. And once again, it seems to have a bit of a green yellowish sort of tint. I think the colors are more natural on the S8. The S8 also has a front-facing flash which illuminates the display to give you some more light. I couldn't find a similar option on the XZ Premium. Now moving on to some outdoor shots. So we've got a macro shot here, and both of these were taken at roughly the same distance. You can see that we've got a wider angle of view on the XZ Premium, but both seem to be doing a very good job. Going in 100%, you can see that we've got lots of detail on both, and we've also got a nice shallow depth of field. The S8 does have better dynamic range, however. The white petals are a little bit blown out in some cases here on the XZ Premium. Now an outdoor wide shot here, both are doing really good. Going in 100% because of the high resolution that you have on the Sony, you can crop in further. But in terms of quality, I think both are doing very similar. You can see that there is definitely some sharpening going on both of these as well. you're only going to be able to notice this if you go in 100%. Now here is another wide shot, and in this shot the S8 does seem to have better dynamic range. There's more details in the shadows, and also the clouds. We can see more details in the clouds, whereas those are being a little bit clipped on the XZ Premium. To test this even further, I went to an even more tricky situation. Once again, the dynamic range on the S8 is definitely winning out here for me. We've got similar detail in the clouds, but the shadows are definitely better here on the S8 Plus compared to that of the XZ Premium. Now moving on to some low light tests. So we've got an indoor low light test. The S8 does seem sharper here and a little bit brighter. I think the colors may be slightly better on the XZ Premium, but to really take this test further, went outdoors at night time, and the S8 is definitely brighter here and also sharper. Going in 100%, you can see much more detail on the text here, and although you can crop in further on the XZ Premium, the text is not as sharp. Finally, a shot using the flash. I think both are doing pretty good here. There still seems to be a bit of a green tint on the Xperia XZ Premium. This is similar to what we had with the front-facing camera as well. I think the colors, it tends to lean more towards that greeny side. So guys, that is the SuperSaf style camera comparison between the Sony Xperia XZ Premium and the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. Now to conclude, I think for the front-facing camera, the S8 did seem better overall in terms of dynamic range as well as sharper video. For the Sony, you did have a high resolution and also a wider angle of view, so you're going to be able to fit more people onto the selfies that you take with the Sony, and you're also going to be able to crop in further. Now for the video from the rear facing camera, I think quality wise both were good. The S8 Plus definitely has better autofocus. That dual pixel autofocus is definitely faster, I would say. For 4K, I think the S8 was a bit more stable, but at 1080p, the Sony was stable with that intelligent active mode. Outdoor images, I think both were good, but the S8 did have better dynamic range. We saw that in many different situations. The Sony, however, is wider with a higher resolution, so once again you are going to be able to crop in further into your shots with the Sony. Now when it comes to low light, I think the S8 was definitely better. I think that comes down to the fact that you've got less megapixels that are being crammed onto the sensor, and you do have a wider aperture. Slow motion wise, Sony obviously has the higher frame rate, 960 frames a second, which looks absolutely epic, but one thing to bear in mind is that it's very difficult to capture. You have to press it at the exact precise moment of when you want that action, and that can sometimes be hit or miss. So that lighter scene actually took me about 10 tries to be able to pinpoint it at the exact point, because that slow motion is a very quick burst. Nevertheless, it is a pretty epic feature, but it's just something to bear in mind. Now for the audio, I think both were pretty much the same for me. I think both did really well. Both of them do have stereo sound, which is great, but you can always go back and have a listen and decide for yourself. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to see more images from lots of different devices, then definitely give me a follow on Instagram. I'm at SuperSaf TV. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and switch on notifications. There's plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.